Well, after a series of complaints and negative feedback, the show finally addresses a long-running plot point as we start to crescendo to the end. Hey guys, coming for Supergirl, Season 2, Episode 20, City of Lost Children, and I was definitely really looking forward to this episode. I think the back half of the season, at least so far, has really been impressing me. As you guys know, I didn't really know where the show was going to go, and I was a little bit frustrated with it, just because it seemed like it was a bit all over the place in terms of direction, and it still is, but it does seem that they are still going to have a very well done final end, and episodes like this really do show why the show has been really messy, but I still really enjoy this episode. The show finally has addressed a complaint that many people have had for a while now, but let's just get into this episode because I definitely did really enjoy it, and I'm definitely interested in seeing where we're going to go from here. So, the episode starts off, we actually see Guardian, he's saving a woman from a pair of attackers, but when he turns to reassure her, that she's okay and everything, she actually panics and runs away, scared of him. And this was a really good episode for James because really ever since this Guardian plot started, people have not been on board with it. I thought initially it was a good idea because it actually gave James something to do. He wasn't just confined to, just being in Catco because I just feel like that wouldn't be that interesting. So I was like, all right, good. They gave James something to do. But I'll be the first to admit that the show is not known how to utilize this plot in any way, shape, or form. They have not really used James really well at all. Not, in my opinion, really till this episode. This is really the first episode in a long time where I genuinely think they use James very well. So when Wynn checks in with James, James decides that it's time to call it a night because he scared this woman off and he did the complete opposite of what he really wanted to do. So James really does come to this big realization here. But then we see the next day, Kara's out to lunch with Lima, and I love these two. I love these two being friends and interacting and just talking about different shows and things like that. It was just a lot of fun to watch. And she tells her that she's working on an exciting new project with a partner who is like a mentor to her, but can't tell her anything more about that. Now, of course, we know that person is Rhea. And if Kara wants to let Lina in on her secret, which I feel like is going to happen sometime this season. I mean, these two are getting so close that it kind of seems inevitable. But if that's what's going to happen, then this is really going to have a big effect on their overall friendship. And she gets a call from the partner, though, and he has to run. So, in a park, Wynn then approaches James to talk about what happened last night, and he starts comparing himself to Batman. He tells Wynn the Guardian really isn't inspiring anyone. It's not really going the way that he wanted it to, because that's what he wanted. He wanted Guardian to inspire people. He wanted Guardian to help everyone, and he's really making people scared. He doesn't seem to actually be saving them. So, as they're having the conversation, though, a young woman then appears and starts to use these psionic powers to throw people and object around, and Supergirl arrives to stop her, but the alien then disappears. So, again, James coming to this realization that, he shows up, everyone runs in fear, Supergirl shows up, and actually does seem to save the day, and is successful at doing so. So, he doesn't really know where he's going wrong here. Like, why can't he be like Supergirl? And I thought that was definitely, again, a very well done scene, because, again, people have not really liked Guardian from the beginning, and we see that that's kind of the case with the show in general. We see back at the DO, she's identified as a Forian, a usually peaceful race, and the DO declines Guardian's help. Like, they don't want him involved, sending James away very frustrated, but it makes sense. I mean, ever since James revealed to Kara, she has not been in favor. One, because she's worried he's going to get hurt. Two, she doesn't really need him. Like, there's no reason why he really needs to be there. He is, in fact, mortal. He doesn't have powers like Superman, Supergirl, or even Mon-El, and he has a much bigger risk of really hurting himself. And I think this is really the moment when James is starting to realizing that he's really been doing a lot of things wrong, and I do think after this episode we're kind of done with the Guardian plot, but we'll have to see. So at dinner, Ray is trying to reassure Lina, who is frustrated by failures in the testing process on their transmitter bridge, and she wonders what will happen if she can't make it work. Obviously, she wants to, but she doesn't know if she's really going to be able to. Rhea says that she has confidence in her, and Rhea leaves and walking nearby. Mon-El thinks he sees her, but he's distracted by traffic on the street. And I like that Mon-El is still involved because this is his mother. We know this kind of all started from her trying to pull him in, and he was kind of refusing to. We'll get back into that at the end because that definitely becomes a big part of this episode towards the end. But in an alley, Guardian breaks up a drug deal involving an alien who tells him that he's only buying a little pot, but he can give James the location of the woman who attacked Simmons Square earlier. And James heads to her apartment, and he sees drawings on a table and photos reflecting a normal home life with kids. And that's exactly who this woman is. She's a normal woman. She has some kids, and a little boy comes home, and he's terrified to see Guardian there. Like, he is, he just can't believe it, and he's just freezing up. Guardian is not someone that invokes peace and invokes hope. He invokes fear, and everyone is terrified of him. And again, I thought this was very well done, but James takes his helmet off, tells him he's only there to help, and once he takes his helmet off, things seem to be okay. Like, the boy's fear very much does dissuade very quickly. So at the DO, Alex is trying to get information out of Marcus, the little boy, and he's not saying anything. Like, he almost doesn't want to tell her what's going on. And in another room, James says he thinks that this is the wrong approach. And I like that James actually stood up and said, look, I don't think this is really what we should be doing. And I agree. I mean, you shouldn't interrogate a little kid like this. Like, they're not going to tell you anything. So eventually, Alex figures out that the kid actually might trust James and offers to send him an offsite to talk with Marcus and actually try to see if he can help out in a different way. So Mon-El then heads to see Wynn about some help with a satellite, and I like the bond between Mon-El and Wynn. I really do like that. Obviously he's there for another goal. Like, he's there obviously because he saw Rhea and he wants to find out more about that. So I like the friendship we've gotten here. I feel like it's been really understated, though. Like, I remember the last time we really saw these two actually interact and have a really good friendship was, like, way back in the back half, like, in the middle half of the season. Like, in January, I remember, like, okay, I really do want to see these two bond more, and ever since then, we really have not gotten too much of that. And I hope the show does keep Mon-El on because there are a lot of characters he can still interact with. I've never really seen him share the screen with James. I don't know if it's, if he just hasn't, but definitely it is possible for them to do, and I want to see him share, the screen with Alex. I want to see more Mon-El interaction. Chris Wood is such a charismatic dude that he really just lights up the screen, and he really does have great chemistry with everyone, and I want to see them utilize him more, because I know people say that we do get too much Mon-El in the show, and I don't think that's the case. I think we get too much Mon-El and Kara. After a while, seeing the same two characters interact over and over again, and not really have much progression within that storyline. Sure, they are together, but other than that, we don't really see a lot of progression. It does get tiring after a while. It does, and that the reason why it's not boring for Kara is because she has Lina, and I want to see Mon-El get some sort of Lina, and I think Wynn is exactly that kind of Lina that he needs, and I think he definitely is. I just feel like we really have not seen a ton of that relationship, so I do want to see more bonding between these two because it's always a lot of fun to watch. But we see at L-Corp, Lina is continuing to be frustrated by her failures, saying that she's frustrated because she thought this could help prove that she is as smart as Lex, and that her doing what she can, she is still, she is kind of like the unknown Luther sister, and Rhea tells her to stop thinking like Lex and try to figure a better workaround for herself, which is very good advice. But again, you can tell that Rhea is not doing this to encourage her. She's doing it so things will work out for her. And again, Terry Hatcher did a really great job here. So at Catco, James then brings Marcus in and introduces him to Kara, but he still doesn't want to talk to anyone but James. He only seems to have this attachment to James, and he only really wants to open up to him. So James has Miss Tessmatcher gets them some milkshakes and curly fries, and he brings Marcus into formerly Kat's, but it's now his office, and it's going to be Kat's office next week because she's coming back. But after looking around, he sits in front of a camera that's in pieces on a small table, and he tells him that he brought the camera with his first paycheck from photojournalism, and another one on the table is the camera his dad gave him. When he starts sharing stories about his dad, this finally gets Marcus to open up that he actually lost his father too. So you can tell that James really sees Marcus as his younger self, kind of. Like, they're going through a very similar time in their life. And I really like this. Again, we really have not seen them utilize James very well, and this I really like. It seems like he really can help this kid, just through dialogue and through little, just through little interjections like this, but not really through actual combat. That's just not for him. So Mon-El then brings Kara Chinese food, tells her that he thought he saw his mother last night, but that he went and checked and his parents definitely left for home. At least he thinks they did. And he tells Kara that he still really does, that he hates that he still cares about his mother. Like, he still kind of hates her, but he also really cares about her. And she tries to console him. And at L-Corp, Lena's ready for the next test, and Rhea is there, very eager for it. So at Catco, James then teaches Marcus how to use his camera, but when Marcus goes to take a picture of James, he sees a news report about his mother, and James then asks where she might be, but before Marcus can really say anything, Eve shows up with the food, and while James talks to her, suddenly Marcus zones out. He starts using his mental powers to wreak havoc the same way that his mother had, and I like that he actually does have these mental powers, and that he actually can cause a lot of havoc by doing that. So Supergirl speeds in, flies Marcus out of the building, holding him in the air while he has an episode, and his powers seem to be acting up in proportion to the amount of energy being brought through to get at L-Corp, and it shuts down when Rhea turns down the controls, and she brings the boy back to the DEO where they can put him in a cell to dampen his powers and stop him having another episode, and James is trying to run frustrated. He doesn't feel that's the approach to take, but John talks him into sticking around with a pep talk, because, I mean, again, James doesn't feel they're doing the right thing. He doesn't know why they're chaining up this kid. I mean, this is just a kid, again, he sees him as his younger self, therefore he sympathizes with him a lot more, and I like that John's, telling him that he can still be there and talk to, Marcus and things like that. So Wynn figures that out, that a spike in a particular sort of particle is the atmosphere that has been driving the Forian's powers crazy, and Kara realized that the particles were mentioned during her conversation with Lena. So she knows that Lena is definitely behind this, and she calls Lena to let her know that there's a problem, but Rhea actually answers Lena's phone, and Rhea accuses Supergirl of creating conflict when she came in peace, and says that anything she does will be Supergirl's fault. And Mon-El tries to talk her into stopping, but she doesn't want to hear about it because she knows that it is in fact Rhea. She hangs up and deletes the call from Lena's history, because she knows obviously it's not Lena. She can tell that definitely Rhea is using Lena, and I like that. I like that she wasn't upset necessarily with Lena. I thought that was definitely a very well done scene, and it definitely is very well setting up what the end of the season is going to be. So in Marcus's cell at the DEO, Marcus says that he's worried that Earth will kick him like the other worlds where he and his mother have tried to settle down. You get the sense they've kind of just been just kind of taking these little missions through planets, and they haven't really known where to go, just like cycling through all these different planets. And James tells him that he had a pretty bad childhood after he lost his dad too, and that he coped by blocking basically everyone out, kind of like what Marcus is doing. And he tells Marcus that it really was Clark, not Superman, who helped him to open up and trust people again. That's why they have such a strong bond, because Clark was that first person who really did help him, make friends again and really start to open up to people. And I thought it was a really well done scene. Again, I really do like the bonding between these two, how similar they really are. And again, it really does deepen the overall friendship between these two, which I really did like seeing. So Marcus tells James that he can see his mom, but that he doesn't know where she is. He says he can take James to her, and James promises to protect them, and John says he can't let them take Marcus off site. Again, he's just too dangerous. Like, Marcus just seems to be kind of a loose cannon, but James convinces him after Wynn says there's a mobile version for the telekinetic dampener that should keep either of the two from having an episode. So Marcus leads them to his mom, who's paranoid. When she sees people there, Marcus tells her not to worry, but there are more than just two aliens there. He knows there's definitely more, and at L-Corp, Lena is worried about the idea of Rhea leaving, because Rhea really has helped her. She's helped her grow more confident, and she's helped her kind of realize the potential that she has, but Rhea tells her that whatever happens next, she should know that she's a Marvel, and any mother should be proud to have her. And at this point, I think Rhea is being sincere. I think she genuinely does see a lot of potential in Lena, and She turns the gateway on as high as it goes. Lena starts to panic, not realizing that's what she was trying to do. But at the DO, Supergirl Mon-El sees the signal, knows where to go to confront her. And after Mon-El gets something in the alien hideout, the psionic dampener isn't powerful enough to protect James and Wayne from a room full of activated powers. And at L Corp, nothing Supergirl Mon-El can close the gateway. And Rhea is actually bringing something to Earth. Supergirl is struggling to break the gate. Rhea uses White Martian technology to trap John in a nightmare, and elsewhere, James is trying desperately to get through to Marcus so that Marcus can calm the other aliens, and just as he does that, Mon-El holds a gun on her, reminding her that they aren't bulletproof here. Like, if he pulls this trigger, she's going to die, and she talks him into putting it down, telling him that Largan took his own life after Mon-El left. She wants him to believe that he actually committed suicide. Obviously, that's not the case. She actually killed him, but as he lowers the gun, she opens a gate for thousands of Daxamite refugees and hundreds of ships, and across the city, everyone is watching as ships descend on National City. Clearly, she wants them to take over, and Rhea says, "Welcome to the new home," and just like that, we know exactly what her plan is, and that is the way this episode ends. Really great stuff overall, but let's just get into this episode and where we're going to go in the last 2 episodes of the season. So, wow, I mean, what an ending that really was, especially because this episode in general really seemed like it was a setup episode, which that's very much what that was. This was very much one of those sort of, like, building block type episodes, but just because it was just as riveting because that I really did love a lot of things about this episode. But let's talk about Rhea's plan, because I was not really sure what it was, and at this point I think it's pretty obvious. She clearly wants to use Daxam and kind of take over Earth that way, and basically have Daxam descend on the city, and they're going to take over Earth, and obviously she's not going to be successful. The problem with this storyline, at least for me, is that most of the season we've been crescendoing with the idea that aliens are kind of treated like Holocaust victims, by Lillian and, by Lillian Luthor. She's taken them captive, she's tested on them, and now that they want us to root against aliens again, I just don't really think those two halves fit together. But regardless, I'm happy that we're at least crescendoing towards something, because it seems like this season we've just been missing that. Like, it seems like they wanted that to be the initial plotline. The whole thing with Lillian Luthor and her trying to, treat these aliens like objects and not really seeing the emotional side in them, which really only Lena does. I thought that's really where we were going with this season, but obviously that's not the case after this episode. We see clearly where we're headed, that Rhea is going to try to get these Daxamites to take over the city, and I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen there. And I like that Supergirl and Mon-El seem kind of useless. Like, they can't really do anything here, and I don't really know what's going to happen. You can tell why Supergirl's going to need to call on Superman. Like, we know Superman's coming in the last 2 episodes, and it makes sense why, because they just can't do it on their own. They need someone stronger than that, and it makes sense why they're going to have to call him in, and I can't wait to see Superman again. I've loved what we got with him in the first 2 episodes this season, and Tyler Hoechlin's just so fun as that character, and that's what I love. It's a fun Superman. It's not ultra dark. It's not Superman that's just always an asshole. This is a Superman that is, for the most part, on top of things, but he also is kind of a nerd, and that's something I really did like about that Superman, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more of that dynamic throughout next week. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But the other big part of this has to be John. We see that she is trapping John kind of into this nightmare. We don't really know what this is all about. That part actually does work very well, because again, a part of the White Martian storyline is that the White Martians were very much like Holocaust victims, where they were kind of in these concentration camps and things like that, and I thought the way that they set all of that up, where John's down in this nightmare, we don't really know what's going to happen there, and John really has not had a big storyline since Mehcad left. He kind of has been background since, kind of like James. They really have not known what to do with either of these characters, for a while now. So I'm glad to see that he is going to have some sort of struggle going on here. As far as James, this was a really, really strong episode for James. I really did like what we got here. particularly his relationship with Marcus, because he really does see the good in him. And not only that, he sympathizes with him because Marcus is going through a very similar situation that James did. You know, they both don't have fathers. Their fathers are both kind of deadbeat. I don't know if they died, but they actually, James said his father did in fact die. Marcus's, we don't really know, but Marcus is the first person to really open up to James, and I really do like that relationship that they really do have, and I like that it seems that Marcus is sticking on for these last 2 episodes, and you can tell that James is going to do what he can to make sure the kid isn't just, he obviously doesn't want him just given a slap on the wrist, but he doesn't want him to be treated as an animal either. He knows he has emotions, he knows what Marcus is going through, and he does have a lot of sympathy for him. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how that all really turns out. I really did like what we got here with those two, and I'm hoping this isn't the end, because I really did love their scenes throughout this episode, and I thought, I definitely do want to reiterate, I thought their stuff was definitely very strong here. The real wild card in all this is Lena. I have no idea where she's going to go, because on one hand, she has been very loyal to Rhea. She was hesitant at first, obviously, but Rhea has influxed so much courage in her, and she's given her so many, like, thoughtful words that I don't know if leaving Rhea is going to be as easy as we think it is. I mean, obviously, she knows that Rhea does have some evil intent, but Rhea has very much been like her mentor in this situation. She's given her a lot of great pep talks and things like that. Is it really just as simple to leave Rhea? Is she really ready to do that? I don't know if that's really the case. So we'll have to see really where that's going to go, if she's going to leave Rhea or if she has some other plan that we just don't know about. I'm definitely interested in seeing how that really does play out for these last 2 episodes. But I'm hoping that it doesn't ruin her friendship with Kara, because again, Kara just doesn't really have that female friend to talk to that's not Alex. Yes, their friendship has always been, I think, the main relationship within the show. I think it always will be. But her and Lena, there's definitely something to say about that. It's just something we really have not seen before, and I'm hoping they don't change that. Now, the fact that Lena was upgraded to a series regular, I doubt they're really going to ruin that friendship. I think they know what the fans want initially, and all is said and done, I just want those 2 to stay friends, because they're some of the best moments we've had in this back half of the season, and I really hope they don't, do anything to put a detriment to that. But overall, guys, I really did enjoy this episode. I'm definitely seeing where we're going to go moving forward. Like I said, Superman's coming back. Kat apparently is also coming back for the last 2 episodes, which is awesome. I don't know if Calista Flockhart is going to stay on from here on out. I hope she does, because we have definitely been missing Kat. I don't think they've had as well as a balance as they did in Season 1. They didn't even have the great balance in Season 1. Season 1 was too Catco focused. This season is too DEO focused. Maybe Season 3 they'll finally figure that out. But overall, guys, I definitely really did enjoy this episode, and I'm definitely going to give Supergirl Season 2, Episode 20, City of Lost Children, a 4 out of 5 or a B+. So over, guys, moving this episode of Supergirl. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall. Loved your thoughts, and I am definitely interested in seeing where the rest of the season goes. It really does seem like they're pulling out all the stops to really have a satisfying end. And like I said, that's been the main problem of the season. It just hasn't really seemed like they've had much of a direction as to the end game of the show. And now it seems like they need to. So it seems like they really do have a good idea of what they want to do here. But we'll have to see really where this ends up going. It's really just going to come down to how those last 2 episodes really are. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for the Americans from last week. I don't know why I didn't end up reviewing it this weekend, but for whatever reason, I didn't. And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.